Thank you for listening. Hello, Professor Bier, and anybody who happens to be listening to this right now. My name is Leah Hadnot, and I am an education student who is majoring in English and minoring in biology. It is this latter subject that I wish to discuss today, specifically the use of scientific inquiry in the typical Western high school biology classroom. Okay, so before I do anything else, I just want to let you know that the reason why my voice sounds really creaky right now is that I'm just currently getting over a cold, so please bear with me. Okay, so what is scientific inquiry? Well, it can be defined in about 6 parts. Basically, number 1, engaging with a scientific question. Number 2, you're participating in designs of procedures. Number 3, you're giving priority to evidence. Number 4, you're formulating explanations. Number 5, you're connecting explanations to scientific knowledge. And number 6, you are communicating and justifying explanations. This is as defined by Quickly et al. 2011. Clearly, this is a lot more than just scientific method, and the emphasis in general in science education really tends to be scientific inquiry. Like, this is really, really important. Like, you can't ignore it. You tend to see this a lot more in elementary education, actually. When you think of stuff like science fairs and encouragement to ask questions, you tend to think of elementary education, don't you? Like, you tend to think a typical volcano experiments, your potato batteries. I like to call it the era of the magic school bus type thinking. You know, Miss Frizzle? How her motto tends to be, take chances, make mistakes, and get messy! Yeah, that really just seems to summarize the entirety of the elementary school science experience for most people. Yet, it's been my experience that this, meaning scientific inquiry, is seriously downplayed once one reaches high school levels in all 3 sciences, specifically biology. Before I say anything else, my high school experience, it wasn't exactly typical. I was actually homeschooled from grades 1 to about grade 11. For high school, I took online courses, including science courses, that were aligned with the Alberta high school curriculum, because I wanted to get my high school diploma, because it would give me more opportunities where I was from. I actually went into grade 12 into the public school system just for that year. So technically I only had like 1 year in the public school system, but I learned a lot about the public school system in that year, so this is just kind of based on my own experiences. But yeah, for me it really seemed like it was more fact cramming than anything else. We were all so focused on getting the tests done and getting ready for diplomas in grade 12 that it just seems that there wasn't as much emphasis on scientific inquiry anymore. Now, this could have been just me, so I did a little bit of research to see if it was just me or if there was anything to this, and I was very surprised with what I found. Here's some statistics for you. K-12 science teachers reported that they devote, on average, 37.3% of their time to inquiry during typical lessons. As I kind of figured out earlier, it's higher for elementary teachers and it's lower for high school teachers. Again, this is from Quickly et al. 2011. So my question to this is, why? Why is it that scientific inquiry just generally seems to either disappear entirely or just tends to fade into the background? Why is this? What factors are at play here? That means I had to start doing more research, so that's exactly what I did. I found that over 90% of pre-service teachers, like myself currently, that education students basically, have never conducted open inquiry. So this is from Salter and Atkins 2011. Lack of experience with scientific inquiry plays a big part into why it's not really appearing very much in the classrooms. And when scientific inquiry is done within the classrooms, it tends to be either confirmatory or is activity-centered in nature, which basically means that the teacher explains something related to science, and the students do lab work to confirm that something. It's good for basic skills such as titration or learning how to use a microscope. Something like that is fine. It has its place. but at the same time it's terrible for scientific inquiry because scientific inquiry in nature is not necessarily confirmatory. With scientific inquiry, you're basically asking your own question and then looking for the answers yourself. You're not necessarily looking for a teacher to give you the answer for you. That's not the point. What's more is that there was a big lack of exposure, and a lot of these pre-teachers had previously bad experiences with school science, so they really didn't look on science very positively, which is a real shame considering that that's something that they're going to be teaching in the future. You don't necessarily want that kind of negative attitude to a subject you're going to be teaching. Of course, it doesn't help that the emphasis tends to switch over to diploma prep in grade 12, which eats into class time naturally, which could be devoted to scientific inquiry otherwise. Once you hit high school, the science fair also tends to vanish. I remember when I was in high school, when I heard that they did have a science fair, I had to hear about it secondhand. The teacher never said anything about it, which I thought was very strange. I think the overemphasis on the scientific method does damage to scientific inquiry as well, and I'm not the only one. Letterman, and Antics say that scientific method is seen as a fixed set and sequence of steps that all scientists follow when attempting to answer scientific questions. That is labeled as scientific inquiry. But scientific inquiry, as I said earlier, is more than that. And experimental research is not representative of scientific investigations as a whole, so you're really kind of simplifying science to a degree where it doesn't necessarily need to be simplified that much. Again, that was from Letterman, and Antic, 2013.